chosen one. Let me make this crystal clear. From the very first word, this message didn't stumble across your screen by chance. This wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't a random scroll. It wasn't the YouTube algorithm trying to entertain you. No, this was divine interception. God Himself orchestrated this moment. He aligned the timing. He activated the signal. He tuned your spirit in. Right here. Right now. So that what's about to be poured into, you could land directly into the fertile ground of your soul. You've been feeling it, haven't you? That strange, holy disconnection. You've sensed the shift deep in your bones, like a silent wind pushing you away from the people, places, and patterns that once defined you. And maybe it scared you at first. Maybe you thought, why am I pulling back? Why do I feel so detached? Why doesn't anything or anyone feel the same? Let me tell you why. That's not rejection. That's redirection. That's not confusion. That's clarity. You're not being left behind, you're being lifted out. You're not falling apart. You're falling into alignment. Like Enoch. Your journey is shifting. Like Enoch. Your walk is becoming too deep, too sacred, too weighty to remain in the same spiritual geography. Enoch didn't vanish randomly. He didn't disappear to escape. He walked so closely with God that the world could no longer contain him. And chosen one, that's what's happening to you. Your exit isn't drama, it's design. Your disappearance isn't distance, it's destiny. They won't understand it now. They didn't see it while you were present, but they'll feel it when you're gone. The absence of your energy, your prayers, your intercession, your discernment, it will leave an echo. God is about to make your absence louder than your presence ever was. Not to embarrass them, not to inflate you, but to exalt His glory through you. And that's why we're here. That's why this message was divinely timed. Because it's not just a video, it's not content, it's not casual. This is a prophetic signal, a spiritual scroll, a sacred confirmation meant for the set apart. This is for the ones who don't walk like the crowd. This is for the ones who were marked before birth, misunderstood their whole lives, and are finally beginning to see that it wasn't a mistake, it was a mantle. Let me pause here and say thank you to every single one of you who's been walking this journey with us. Whether you've been silently soaking in the Word or actively sowing back into the soil, I honor you. To those who have supported this ministry through super thanks, I want you to know your gift is sacred. It is not taken for granted. It allows this message to continue reaching more chosen ones who are standing on the edge of revelation, waiting for a word that will confirm what they already feel deep inside. Whether you donate or not, you are loved, honored, and deeply appreciated. This space exists because God brought you here. And now, before we begin unfolding this revelation, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe, not because we need the numbers, but because someone else like you may be searching for this exact confirmation. And if your spirit is already burning, if you feel the shiver down your spine, if the tears are starting to form in the corners of your eyes, that's your signal. Drop 777 the comments right now. That number isn't random. It's sacred. It's heaven's fingerprint. It's the numerical seal that says, yes, Lord, I hear you. I recognize this frequency. I know this word is for me. You didn't come here for entertainment. You came for activation. Not everyone will understand what you're about to hear. Not everyone can, because this word wasn't designed for the masses. It's been tailor-made for those who are carrying the Enoch blueprint, those who were never meant to walk the wide road, those who keep losing relationships and routines, not because they're broken, but because they're being built for higher dimensions. This message will explain why your isolation has been sacred, why the last few months or years have felt like a stripping, a pruning, a retreat from everything you once clung to. It will explain why your silence has been louder than your words, why your absence is being felt in places you've long outgrown, and why your life is beginning to resemble a story that has no ending on earth, because your elevation will be too supernatural for them to track. Only the truly chosen make it to the end of this message. Only the ones heaven has marked for ascension. Only the ones who've already been sensing that this life, this rhythm, this atmosphere doesn't match what God is doing inside them. That's you. And if you stay until the end, you'll discover what your soul already suspects, that your disappearance is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your legacy. So prepare your heart, open your ears, shut out every other voice, because this isn't just a message, it's a holy moment. And if you lean in, if you truly listen, something in your soul is about to unlock. You'll never see yourself or your silence the same way again. Let's begin. The journey of your divine exit starts now. God's chosen ones. When you vanish like Enoch, they'll finally realize who you are. Chapter 1. Enoch walked different, and so do you. Chosen one. You were never created to be conventional. You were not formed in your mother's womb to live a life of imitation or to blend into the noise of culture. You were wired from the beginning to walk differently, just like Enoch. His footsteps were never synchronized with the footsteps of the crowd. His rhythm was not dictated by fame, influence, or the applause of men. Enoch's entire existence was an anthem of sacred obedience. And yours is too. Can you feel it? That internal knowing that you've always had a different assignment. Enoch didn't live for the spotlight. He lived for sacred proximity, while others ran after recognition. Enoch ran after the heart of God. He didn't tweet revelations or post his walk with God on scrolls to go viral. No, he lived privately but powerfully. The world may not have celebrated him, but heaven did. And that's the exact blueprint of your journey. Why do you think you've never fit in? Why do you always feel slightly out of step with your generation? It's because, chosen one, you were not designed to match this world's frequency. You carry the same spiritual DNA as Enoch. You're not walking for attention, you're walking for alignment. And that alignment has never gone unnoticed in the courts of heaven. Genesis 5:24 tells us, Enoch walked faithfully with God, then he was no more, because God took him away. That verse isn't just history, it's a mirror, a prophetic whisper to you in this very hour. Just like Enoch, your quiet consistency is building a supernatural momentum that's pulling you out of the ordinary. Consider Harriet Tubman. She wasn't born to be seen, she was born to liberate. Her footsteps through the woods weren't celebrated by society, but they were charting freedom for generations. She walked differently. So do you. She obeyed a higher call. So do you. She was misunderstood. So are you. Have you ever felt like your silence spoke louder than your words? Like your absence made more impact than your presence? That's not accidental. That's Enoch's frequency. You don't need to argue for your destiny. You don't need to post proof of your progress. The spirit realm already knows who you are. Angels whisper your name in realms your enemies can't access. You tried to conform once, didn't you? You tried to downplay your light, to shrink your soul into spaces that were too small for your spirit. You bit your tongue when your discernment screamed. You stayed in circles that diluted you just to avoid being alone. But chosen one, Heaven never meant for you to be common. You were marked set apart for uncommon intimacy with the divine, and God didn't let you stay hidden forever. Why? Because your walk carries a frequency that disrupts the ordinary, like Enoch. Your obedience becomes dangerous to the patterns of a fallen world. What if your life was never meant to be publicized, but prophesied? What if your quiet choices are shaking principalities in ways no performance ever could? Psalm 1:1, the 2nd of December Lares. Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord. That's you? Your steps have been steady. You've said yes when no one was watching. You've fasted in secret. You've obeyed in the wilderness. You've turned down opportunities that would have taken you off course. And now, heaven is leaning in. Do you remember Chadwick Boseman? He was walking with cancer while carrying out a divine assignment on screen. No one knew the warfare he was under, yet he served his purpose with dignity, silence, and unwavering resolve. That's the walk of the chosen. Quiet, heavy, holy. You carry a similar weight. The public has no clue how prophetic your private battles have been. While others build brands, you've been building altars. While others count followers, you've been counting confirmations from God. While they chase fame, you chase fire. Do you ever wonder why the crowd thins when you get serious about your calling? It's not rejection, it's revelation. You were never supposed to walk with the many. You were built to walk with the Holy One. Matthew 7:13-14 reminds us, "Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, but small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it." You found it. You're walking it. You've chosen the harder way, and it's producing a heavenly reward that no one can steal. Look at Nikola Tesla, a man of vision, misunderstood by his time. While others competed, he received blueprints no one else could comprehend. He wasn't validated by the crowd, but his legacy still echoes. Your walk carries echoes, two frequencies. The world won't fully grasp until you're gone. Your difference isn't dysfunction, it's divine. Your absence from certain rooms is actually your promotion. When people say, "What happened to them? They used to be everywhere," they don't realize you've stepped into sacred territory, just like Enoch. You are being repositioned, not for applause, but for prophecy. And isn't it strange how your prayers have been increasing while your circle's been decreasing? That's not loneliness. That's divine filtering. God is weeding out the noise so you can hear the instructions for your next dimension. Hebrews 11:5 affirms, "By faith Enoch was taken from this life, so that he did not experience death. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God." That's your report card too. Your life, though often invisible to man, is pleasing to heaven. Take a moment and think about Elijah. He too walked with God until he was carried into heaven by a chariot of fire. That wasn't death, it was divine transition. And what if the discomfort you're feeling right now isn't spiritual warfare, but spiritual relocation? People around you will ask, "Where did they go?" But in truth, you've gone deeper into God. You've stepped into a new realm of favor that removes you from familiar systems. You're not gone, you're just beyond where they can follow. Isaiah 30:21 promises, "Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you, saying, 'This is the way, walk in it.'" You've been following that voice, even when it led you through dark valleys and silent seasons. And now, that walk is turning into a divine elevation. Look at Mother Teresa. She walked through poverty, through silence, through seasons of deep spiritual loneliness, yet never stopped. Her obedience impacted millions, but for most of her life, she wasn't seen. She was walking, and so are you. Your disappearance isn't a tragedy, it's a testimony. When you vanish from their systems, when your name fades from their conversations, when you stop showing up in places that once defined you, it's not because you've lost your way. It's because God has lifted you to a higher plane. This isn't withdrawal. This is rapture. This is the unfolding of your prophetic destiny. The more you lean into your sacred rhythm, the more potent your presence becomes, even when you're not visible. John 15:19 speaks directly to your separation. If you belonged to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That's your reality. You've been chosen, pulled out for a purpose greater than this realm. Steve Jobs once disappeared from Apple, only to return with world-shifting vision. His temporary vanishing was preparation. Yours is too. This is your incubation, your consecration, your setup for supernatural launch. So don't mourn the places that no longer fit you. Don't explain your exit to people who weren't assigned to your elevation. Like Enoch, your life is a sermon without words. You are walking proof that radical obedience still moves heaven. And chosen one. When you vanish, when the shift happens, when your elevation comes suddenly and without warning, those who couldn't see you will finally realize who you were all along. You weren't strange. You were sacred. You weren't silent. You were sealed. You weren't overlooked. You were overshadowed by God. And the world's confusion will only confirm heaven's recognition. You walked different. And heaven noticed. Chapter 2. Your disappearance will be the proof. Chosen one. What if I told you that your silence was the loudest sermon you'd ever preach? That your exit quiet, unannounced, and misunderstood would one day speak more truth than your presence ever could? This is the divine paradox you're walking into now. The moment heaven decides that your presence has fulfilled its mission in a space, your removal becomes the message. Just like Enoch, you won't need applause, explanation, or ceremony. Your disappearance alone will be the proof. The Bible says something mysterious and beautiful about Enoch in Genesis 5:24. Enoch walked with God, then he was no more, because God took him away. No record of death, no dramatic final speech, no closure for the people who knew him. He simply ceased to be where he once was. Why? Because God took him, because his walk became too close to heaven to remain on earth. And chosen one, your walk is stirring that same divine response. Your loyalty has outgrown your location. Your obedience has triggered a relocation. Can you feel it? The tension of knowing you're still physically here, but your spirit is already miles ahead. You show up to familiar places, but your energy doesn't stick. You speak in conversations that suddenly feel hollow. You scroll through old messages and wonder how you ever tolerated the noise. That's not you being distant. That's God creating distance for you. It's called divine withdrawal, and it's sacred. Think about Simone Biles, the world-renowned gymnast. In 2021, she shocked the world by stepping back from Olympic competition, not because she wasn't capable, but because her inner peace mattered more than public expectation. That wasn't weakness. That was wisdom. It was a divine extraction from an atmosphere that could no longer contain the weight of her inner world, just like you. Chosen one. She knew when it was time to disappear from pressure, and in doing so, she proved who she truly was. Some exits are not escapes, they're elevations. Some disappearances are not breakdowns, they're breakthroughs in disguise. And when God calls you higher, He doesn't always send a memo. He simply starts making things feel uncomfortable. The familiar becomes foreign, the comfortable becomes constrictive, and suddenly, you're not walking away from people, you're being pulled toward purpose. Isaiah 55:8-9 reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways." That's why your disappearance confuses people. They can't trace God's blueprint. They think you've changed. They don't realize you've just been summoned to something greater. Your departure will not come with trumpets or titles. It may not even look like leaving at all. Sometimes, chosen one. God doesn't change your location. He changes your frequency. And suddenly, even when you're in the same room, your spirit doesn't respond the same way. Your tolerance shrinks for small talk. Your interest feathers for drama. Your soul starts craving something cleaner, quieter, holier. This is the mystery of spiritual evolution. It's not always visible, but it is always felt. Consider the late Anthony Bourdain, who traveled the world, exposing beauty and brokenness through food and culture. But despite his global fame, he confessed often to feeling disconnected, spiritually restless. The difference between disappearance and depletion is divine awareness. When you disappear with God, it's not to escape life. It's to find the life others cannot see. Chosen one, ask yourself this: what are you still trying to stay accessible to that heaven has already removed you from? Who are you explaining yourself to when God has already exonerated you? What environments are you lingering in that no longer align with the frequency of your future? There comes a time when trying to stay visible becomes spiritual sabotage. You can't keep dimming your divinity to comfort those who refuse to awaken. Luke 5:16 says, "But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." Even Jesus knew the power of sacred disappearance. He didn't explain it. He didn't apologize for it. He simply vanished into communion with the Father and returned with power. You're in the same pattern now. You're not running from people. You're being filled for purpose. You're not ghosting. You're growing. And yes, the people around you will notice. They'll scroll through your socials, wondering why you're not posting like before. They'll replay your old conversations, searching for signs of the shift. They'll feel a strange emptiness when you're not present. Why? Because you were never just nice or motivating or different. You were spiritually disruptive. You carried heaven's frequency into their chaos. And now that you're gone emotionally, energetically, or physically, the air feels different. Nelson Mandela once disappeared for 27 years into a prison cell, and yet his absence became a global outcry. When he returned, he carried a mantle of leadership, authority, and divine restraint that changed a nation. His disappearance was not silence. It was preparation and chosen one. That's exactly what's happening to you. Your retreat is not rejection, it's realignment. Your quietness is not confusion, it's clarity. And soon, your absence will be the very thing that forces people to confront their assumptions about you. They'll remember how your presence brought peace, how your wisdom disarmed conflict, how your prayers altered atmospheres. But they won't fully understand until you're no longer accessible. Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven." This is your season to shift, to disappear, to be pulled into consecration without needing to make a dramatic exit speech. You won't throw shade. You won't burn bridges. You'll simply become unavailable. And in that sacred unavailability, your true identity will emerge. Rosa Parks didn't raise her voice. She didn't launch a protest with banners. She simply sat down, and in that stillness, history was stirred. What if your stillness is the protest? What if your silence is the revolution? What if your absence is the thunder that shakes the earth? You see, chosen one, when God pulls you out, He doesn't ask for permission. He removes you, not because of punishment, but because of prophecy. Your surroundings can't contain your calling anymore. So, He extracts you, quietly, precisely, irrevocably. He pulls you from the shallow end and places you in the deep, where your prayers become weapons and your presence becomes rare. Psalm 91:1 proclaims, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." That's your new location, not a place, but a posture, not a platform, but a presence. And in that secret place, God reveals things no crowd will ever comprehend. Look at Maya Angelou. Her words carried a divine cadence, but her power came from years of silence, solitude, and study. She vanished from public life many times, only to reappear with revelation. Her disappearances weren't losses. They were layers of legacy being written in silence. You, too, are being written in secret. So, chosen one, don't be afraid when people don't understand your retreat. Don't feel guilty for not responding to every invitation. Don't feel pressure to keep proving your growth. Your peace is the new proof. Your joy is the new testimony. Your absence is now an announcement that says, "I've been claimed by God." And here's the most humbling part. When you disappear, the ones who misunderstood you will begin to remember you, not with gossip, but with reverence, not with rumors, but with reflection. Your silence will speak, your legacy will echo, and your very disappearance will become the proof that you were chosen all along. This is your Enoch moment, your holy vanishing, your sacred extraction. It is heaven's way of saying, "You've walked with me long enough. Now, let me take you higher." You don't have to say goodbye. God will be your punctuation. You don't need an audience. Heaven is already applauding. And you don't need a gravestone. Because just like Enoch, you're not leaving in death. You're leaving in glory. So rise, chosen one. Disappear from the distractions. Withdraw from the noise. Ascend from the assumptions. You are not lost. You have simply been taken. Chapter 3. God is removing you to reveal you, chosen one. You've probably felt it in your spirit before you could articulate it with words. A slow, steady pulling away. Invitations you used to accept now feel heavy. Conversations you once enjoyed now feel hollow. You're not angry, bitter, or confused. You're just changing. But to others, it may look like you're disconnecting, losing interest, or isolating. What they don't realize is this: you're not retreating from life. You're being drawn into alignment. This isn't rejection, it's revelation. Can you feel the shift happening within you? What once inspired you now feels shallow. What once fed your spirit now tastes bland. What once thrilled your soul now barely moves you. That's not failure, it's spiritual maturity. God is detaching you from what no longer serves, the next version of who you're becoming, and He's doing it quietly, without fanfare, because heaven's greatest unveilings often begin in divine silence. Isaías 43:19 declares, "See, I am doing a new thing, now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." That new thing isn't just around you, it's within you. And to unlock it, God must remove you from the version of life that no longer matches your internal transformation. Think of caterpillars. They don't shout before they turn into butterflies. They vanish, they isolate. They enter a space that looks like death, but births wings. The cocoon doesn't look glamorous. It looks like hiding, but it's the container of greatness. And chosen one, you are cocooned right now, wrapped in God's process, removed from visibility, so your wings can grow in strength and symmetry. Have you ever considered that God may be pulling you back to launch you forward? That what appears like a demotion is actually divine positioning? God doesn't always promote you by putting you in front of people. Sometimes He promotes you by pulling you away from people who no longer recognize your value. Could this be why you're being repositioned in ways you didn't expect? John 15:2 reminds us, He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, He prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. You're not being cut down, you're being pruned. And pruning is proof of potential. Take Oprah Winfrey. Before she became a media titan, she was removed from her job as a television news anchor for being unfit for television. But that rejection became redirection. Had she not been removed from that environment, her purpose might have been buried under someone else's definition of her worth. Chosen one. Who told you you were being demoted when God was simply clearing the stage for your debut? When God removes you, it's not random. It's never without purpose. He removes you from rooms that no longer match your revelation. He silences the voices that dilute your discernment. He closes doors that lead to detours. Why? Because He's not just shaping your path. He's safeguarding your purpose. You're not hiding. You're being hidden. And isn't it funny how the places that once celebrated you now feel foreign? The people who once applauded you now act confused. That's the mark of transformation. You're not who you used to be, and they can sense it, even if they can't explain it. Psalm 139:16 says, Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. Before anyone knew your name, God wrote your journey. And part of that journey includes seasons where He removes you from visibility so He can refine you in private. Consider Michael Jordan. He was cut from his high school basketball team, removed, overlooked, dismissed. But that moment of humiliation became the ignition of history. He disappeared into work, into development, into grit. And when he re-emerged, he carried a mantle of excellence no one could ignore. Could your current removal be the setup for that kind of impact? Chosen one. Your removal is not your punishment. It's your preparation. You're being separated, not sidelined. And when you understand that, your silence becomes sacred. Your stillness becomes strategy. You stop explaining your movements to people who aren't spiritually licensed to understand them. Have you noticed how exhausting it is to maintain appearances when your spirit is shifting beneath the surface? That's because the version of you that once needed approval has outgrown its shell. God is peeling back the old identity, not to leave you exposed, but to crown you with authenticity. Proverbs 25:2 reveals, It is the glory of God to conceal a matter. To search out a matter is the glory of kings. You are hidden because you are holy, and God conceals what is valuable until it is time for unveiling. Look at Emily Dickinson. She lived much of her life in isolation. She rarely left her home. Her poetry, though largely unpublished while she was alive, later transformed American literature. What the world ignored in real time, heaven was archiving for legacy. That's the level of unveiling God is preparing for you, unseen now, undeniable later. So why does it hurt? Why does separation sting so deeply, even when you know it's right? Because you're human. Because you formed attachments. Because you loved people, places, and rhythms that fed you for a season. But chosen one, some seasons end, so new roots can be planted in deeper soil. Ecclesiastes 3:1 reminds us, there is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. The season for blending in is over. The season for downplaying your discernment is over. The season for carrying dead weight is over. Now begins the season of unveiling. Picture David. Before he was king, he was removed from the battlefield and sent back to the sheep. To onlookers, it looked like a demotion, but God was grooming a warrior in solitude. His obscurity became his oil. His hiddenness became his strength. And when the time came, one stone was all it took to silence the giant. God is removing you now to reveal you later. Not the you that pleases people. The real you, the one forged in prayer, tested in fire, and baptized in purpose. This unveiling doesn't need applause. It doesn't crave confirmation. It only requires obedience. You don't have to post an update. You don't need to defend your exit. You don't need to announce your shift. The fruit will speak. The change will radiate. The oil will drip. And the people who once doubted you will have no choice but to witness your elevation. Matthew 6:6 declares, but when you pray, go into your room. Close the door and pray to your Father, who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you openly. What you're building in secret is about to break forth in public. Take Beyoncé, who disappeared for a full year before releasing Lemonade, a cultural and spiritual body of work. No press, no build-up, no warning, just impact. Her silence wasn't absence, it was alchemy. So is yours, chosen one. This is your season of sacred alchemy. Let God remove you. Let Him protect you. Let Him rebuild you in places no human hand can touch. Don't resist the pulling. Don't grieve the disconnection. God is customizing your environment to match your elevation. He is severing access to protect your assignment. He is isolating your path to amplify your voice. He is silencing noise to awaken your anointing. Let Him, because when He reveals you, it won't be partial. It won't be rushed. It won't be shaky. It will be heaven's full endorsement, in full view. You will walk into rooms you didn't network your way into. You will receive invitations you didn't chase. You will unlock doors that were bolted shut because heaven will back you. So remain still. Even when your soul craves movement, remain hidden. Even when your ego wants to be seen, remain humble. Even when your name begins to rise, this is holy removal. This is sacred surgery. This is divine isolation, not to exile you, but to exalt you. And when the time is right, God Himself will say one word, now, and you'll step out not with swagger, but with substance, not with noise, but with presence, not with insecurity, but with glory. So stay the course. Chosen one. Stay submitted. Stay surrendered. The world may think you've vanished, but heaven knows you're just getting started. Chapter 4. You were different from the beginning, chosen one. Have you ever wondered why nothing ever felt quite normal for you? Why, even in moments of so-called joy, there was always a subtle ache inside you for something deeper, more eternal, more real. From the very beginning, even before your thoughts had words, your spirit was already speaking. You didn't fit not because you were flawed, but because you were formed differently. You weren't designed to blend in, you were designed to stand out with quiet power. Long before people could point it out, before teachers labeled you as too much, before family called you too sensitive, before friends told you to lighten up, God had already whispered your uniqueness into your soul. You laughed harder because your joy was deeper. You wept longer because your compassion was wider. You were never shallow water. You were always ocean, depth, mysterious and full of purpose. Did you notice how even your silence shifted the atmosphere around you? That wasn't just personality. That was divine presence. Jeremiah 1-5 tells us, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." You weren't just born. You were appointed, set apart, sealed with something heaven sent. That explains why nothing mediocre ever satisfied you. Why shallow talk made your soul itch. Why even in a crowded room, you felt a holy pull somewhere else. And while others ran toward popularity, you sought purpose. While they clung to noise, you craved stillness. You were never afraid of hard truths. You didn't flinch when life asked for more of you. Instead of avoiding pain, you leaned in and asked, "What is this trying to teach me?" Have you ever noticed how many times you healed from wounds that would have broken someone else? That's because you were built with spiritual reinforcements. You're not just surviving, you're awakening. Think about Frida Kahlo, an artist whose physical pain marked every inch of her life, yet who poured soul, grief, and divine symbolism into every painting. Her difference made people uncomfortable until it became the very thing that immortalized her. Her uniqueness was never a curse. It was her calling. You, too, carry a sacred echo, a creative, emotional, prophetic frequency that can't be cloned, copied, or contained. People may have misunderstood you growing up. You may have even questioned yourself, why do I feel everything so deeply? Why can I see what others ignore? Why do I sense people's pain before they speak? The world told you it was a burden. But chosen one, that was your blessing in disguise. You weren't emotionally fragile. You were spiritually tuned. 1 Corinthians 2:14 says, "The person without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, but considers them foolish, and cannot understand them, because they are discerned only through the Spirit." That explains why so many couldn't comprehend you. They didn't have the frequency to interpret your spirit, and rather than admit their limitation, they labeled your gift as weird. But what if your weirdness was your witness? What if your tears were prophetic intercessions? What if your quiet presence was the very channel through which heaven released clarity into chaos? Maya Angelou once said, "I come as one, but I stand as 10,000, her life full of trauma, poetry, activism, and healing reflected the truth of divine difference. She wasn't just a woman with words, she was a soul with purpose. That's how you've always lived too, even if you didn't realize it until now. Chosen one. It's time you stop apologizing for your depth. Stop hiding your hunger for truth. Stop shrinking your spirit to keep others comfortable. You were different from the beginning, because God needed you to be different. Why do you think you didn't break the way they expected? Why do you think you kept showing up when others quit? Because heaven didn't put you here to copy culture. Heaven put you here to confront it with love, with truth, with power. Even your solitude wasn't random. While others gathered in crowds to numb their emptiness, your soul found refuge in silence. You didn't isolate to escape. You withdrew to hear. You didn't run from community. You waited for one that resonated with your spirit. And though that path often felt lonely, it was never punishment. It was protection. Psalm 4:3 reminds us, "Know that the Lord has set apart his faithful servant for himself. The Lord hears when I call to him." You were set apart, not because you were fragile, but because you were vital. You were heaven's answer in rooms full of questions. You were clarity in crowds full of noise. You brought peace into chaos without needing a stage or a title. You were the atmosphere shift, and you didn't even realize it. You didn't crave power. You carried presence. You didn't want fame. You wanted freedom. You didn't fight for validation. You followed vision. And that's why, even when people rejected you, your spirit kept rising. They couldn't break what God built. They couldn't silence what God anointed. They couldn't ignore what heaven marked, even when they dismissed you as too much. The truth is, you were carrying more than they could handle. Let's talk about Robin Williams. He made the world laugh, but carried spiritual heaviness behind the scenes. People only saw the performance, but those sensitive enough saw the pain. He was a vessel of joy and burden at the same time. Like you, he felt deeply. And in that depth was his brilliance and his battle. You've carried both too. But the difference is, you're not hiding behind the mask anymore. You're awakening to the truth of your identity. Romans 12:2 urges, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." You were never wired to conform. That's why you couldn't imitate their joy. It felt fake. That's why you couldn't repeat their routines. They felt shallow. That's why you often walked away from circles that others called safe. Because your soul was designed to discern the difference between comfort and compromise. Chosen one. The loneliness you felt growing up was never loneliness. It was a holy separation, a spiritual incubation. While they were partying, you were praying. While they were blending in, you were being built. You obeyed when it cost you comfort. You stayed when others scattered. You heard heaven's voice when others only heard noise. Mother Teresa once said, "If you are humble, nothing will touch you, neither praise nor disgrace, because you know what you are." That's what's happening to you now. You're stepping into unshakable knowing. You're not moved by gossip, distraction, or delay. You're not chasing crowds. You're carrying a cross. And the very things that once made you feel isolated, your compassion, your insight, your hunger for truth, are becoming the very tools of your elevation. What they laughed at is now what they need. What they ignored is now what they admire. The voice you silenced is now the trumpet God is about to amplify. Isaías 60:1 declares, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." It's your time, chosen one. No more shrinking, no more apologizing, no more adjusting your brightness to keep others from squinting. Your light isn't too much. It's right on time. Let me ask you something. What if you were born to be the disruption, the one who breaks cycles, the one who exposes lies, the one who heals bloodlines? What if your tears weren't just emotional, but generational cleansing? You've carried burdens that weren't yours. You've felt atmospheres shift when you walked in. You've stayed up nights praying for people who mocked your faith. You've held your peace when others threw stones. And you've never stopped believing, even when everything inside you screamed to give up. Because you weren't built to break. You were built to birth. You are not random. You are not broken. You are not behind. You were marked. Marked with mercy. Sealed with strength. Drenched in destiny. Designed with divine foresight. And now, God is about to reveal why He made you the way He did. Steve Jobs was often called too intense, too obsessive, too different. But he saw what others couldn't. He connected dots others never noticed. And because of that difference, he reshaped the world. His legacy wasn't built by fitting in, but by standing out. Likewise, your difference is not a liability. It is a launching pad. And your journey is not delayed, it's being divinely timed. Every rejection, every mislabeling, every misunderstood season is now working in your favor. Because God's about to prove that he doesn't need the masses. He just needs one surrendered vessel, chosen one. Your life is proof that depth matters. That light can exist in silence. That sensitivity is strength. That being misunderstood is often the mark of being divinely guided. So stop apologizing for what God anointed. Stop hiding what God handcrafted. Stop dumbing down your brilliance to keep company with the blind. The time for hiding is over. The time for rising has come. And when you rise, you won't just be recognized, you'll be remembered. Chapter 5. The more you walk with God, the less they'll recognize you, chosen one. What if the very things that make you unrecognizable to others are the exact signs that heaven is finishing what it started in you? Enoch didn't vanish in a flash. His disappearance wasn't a spontaneous miracle, it was the result of a long, quiet, consistent walk with God. One faithful step at a time. Not flashy, not famous, just obedient, day by day. He moved closer to the divine until the distance between time and eternity dissolved, until heaven said, "You've walked far enough here, now come walk with me there." And that, beloved, is what's happening in you. You don't feel like you're sprinting, you're not making headlines, but every decision you make to stay aligned, every refusal to descend into drama, every moment you turn to prayer instead of panic, it's transforming you. You're not just behaving differently, you're becoming someone different. Someone heaven recognizes more and earth understands less. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has gone. The new is here." You are living that verse in real time. This isn't just a phase. It's a divine metamorphosis. Do you notice how the crowd around you is thinning? How the conversations feel less stimulating? How the applause no longer fills you? That's not depression. That's elevation. You are walking into clarity. And that kind of clarity always costs you comfort. It reveals who was walking with you and who was just walking beside you. It's why people who once said they knew you no longer recognize who you've become. They remember your reactions, your old insecurities, the version of you that needed approval. But that version has been laid to rest. You're no longer fueled by the need to be understood. You're led by the need to obey. Nelson Mandela, after 27 years in prison, didn't come back the same man. The people who remembered his youthful fire now met his weathered wisdom, and many were confused. But he wasn't interested in matching their memory. He was answering to destiny. Like him, you've gone through a private prison of pruning, and your reintroduction is provoking discomfort. So now when they say, "You've changed," they're not lying. You have. But here's what they don't see. You're not becoming someone else. You're becoming the version of you that God saw before the world ever named you. You're not acting. You're awakening. Ephesians 4:22-24 urges, "Put off your old self and put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness." That's your wardrobe now, not designer clothes. But divin caractère. And some people won't like the way it looks on you. Why? Because your transformation shines light on their stagnation Your peace reveals their chaos. Your maturity exposes their shallowness. And when you stop engaging in old arguments, when you stop picking up calls from chaos, when you stop needing to prove your point, it confuses them. But chosen one, don't shrink to stay familiar. Have you considered that your evolution may be triggering their insecurity, that your boundaries feel like betrayal to those who benefited from your lack of them? The old you would have explained, defended, apologized. But the new you bless and release, you discern and detach. Because now you finally know that presence doesn't require proximity, and that not everyone is qualified for your access. Mother Teresa once said, "If you want to bring happiness to the whole world, go home and love your family." But what happens when your family no longer sees you? When your growth makes you foreign to the ones you grew up with? That's when your love must evolve from performance to posture. You don't have to prove anything. Love them, but follow God. John 15:19 puts it plainly. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own, as it is. You do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. You weren't born to be understood by everyone. You were born to be separated for something sacred. You used to be drawn to the noise, didn't you? You used to chase validation, mistaking attention for affection. But now, your spirit craves stillness. Your appetite has changed. You're no longer hungry for affirmation. You're hungry for assignment. And with every step in that assignment, your energy changes. People feel it. You walk into a room and bring peace without speaking. You walk out, and people feel the absence. Your presence preaches louder than your posts. Your restraint convicts more than your rebuttals. Your silence becomes a sanctuary. And not everyone knows how to handle that kind of transformation. Look at Bob Dylan. At the height of his fame, he shifted his music, changed his message, and lost fans. But he stayed true to the voice that was guiding him. Your walk will require the same. Not everyone will clap when you grow, but the heavens will open, because, like Enoch, you are walking into a realm beyond sight, not physically gone, but spiritually lifted. You still show up, but you no longer attach. You still listen, but you no longer linger. You still love, but you don't lower yourself anymore. Romans 12:1-2 reminds us, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That transformation isn't just about actions, it's about identity. You're not trying to live better. You're learning to become who you already were, in God's eyes. Chosen one. Your peace is the product of private sacrifices. Your wisdom was bought with warfare. Your discernment didn't come from books, it came from betrayal. And now that you finally understand the value of your walk, you refuse to waste steps on distractions. But still, doesn't it sting sometimes? Doesn't it hurt when friends say you've changed with suspicion instead of celebration? When they see your silence as shade, your peace as pride, your distance as disloyalty? That's the cost of clarity. Think about Maya Angelou. She didn't adjust her voice to fit in. She deepened it until it became a landmark. Her transformation was not just poetic, it was prophetic. Like her, you carry the kind of resonance that echoes long after the room goes quiet. People may not understand your walk, but they'll remember your presence. Philippians 3:13, the 14th of December, Les. But one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward. That's your mission now. You're pressing forward. You're moving in silence. You're ascending in obedience. And as you rise, don't expect everyone to cheer. Some will say, "You've changed." and they're right. Some will say you're distant, and they're right. Some will say they can't feel you anymore, and that's because they were only connected to the version of you that needed them. But God was never building you for consensus. He was building you for covenant. Your new self will confuse people who only knew your broken self, but you can't go back to making yourself small so others feel safe. Not now. Not after everything God has walked you through. You've survived too much to pretend you're still the same. You've wept privately, forgiven silently, grown patiently. You've been through inner surgeries that no one applauded, but heaven recorded every cut, every scar, every healing. And now, that healed version of you no longer fits in the places where pain was your bonding language. Think of Malala Yousafzai, shot for seeking education. She emerged from tragedy, not with bitterness, but with boldness. Her walk became global. Her voice, undeniable. But before that, she was unrecognizable to those who expected her to stay quiet, like her. Your pain prepared a platform, but only God could do the unveiling. So, yes, people will say, you're not like you used to be, and you'll smile, not out of arrogance, but out of reverence, because you remember who you used to be. You remember the confusion, the people-pleasing, the insecurity, and now that you've shed it, you're not going back. 1 John 3:2 gives us a glimpse of glory. Dear friends, now we are children of God, and what we will be has not yet been made known, but we know that when Christ appears, we shall be like him. That's your journey, becoming more like Christ, one obedient step at a time. And as you walk, fewer people will recognize you, but heaven will applaud louder, chosen one. You are walking in a rhythm this world cannot replicate. You are walking in grace, in silence, in reverence, and with every step, you're being pulled further away from the surface and deeper into the spirit. Don't rush to explain. Don't water yourself down to stay close. Don't apologize for the price you paid to walk with God. Let the fruit speak. Let the glow show. Let the shift settle, because those who can't walk with you in your becoming were never meant to stand with you in your beholding. This is your Enoch process, step by step, glory by glory, until one day you will look around and realize you are no longer walking with the world. You are walking above it. And when they say, "Where did you go?" heaven will answer, "They walked too closely with God to stay." Chapter 6. God is using your exit as evidence. Chosen one. Do you truly understand what your disappearance means in the spirit? Because this is not just about you stepping away. It's not just about you leaving a job, distancing from family drama, unfollowing people, or becoming quiet in circles that once pulled your energy. What's happening is much bigger than that. This is heaven writing a message using the punctuation of your exit. Just as God used Enoch's departure as divine evidence, he's now using yours. And the world may not understand it, but eternity does. When God took Enoch, it wasn't merely a personal reward for a life well lived. It was a public declaration without words, a supernatural announcement that whispered into the chaos of a fallen world. Holiness still exists. Intimacy is still possible. Obedience still matters. And now, yes, you are walking in the same rhythm. Your decision to exit certain spaces isn't weakness. It's worship. It's not retreat. It's reverence. Hebrews 11:5 tells us, "By faith Enoch was taken from this life, so that he did not experience death. He was commended as one who pleased God." Enoch's removal was God's megaphone to a generation drowning in compromise. And your quiet exits? They're declarations. 2. They are God's sermons in motion without sound, without stage, without spectacle. You are preaching with your obedience. Have you ever wondered why people misread your silence? Why they say you've changed? Why they gossip when you leave a room? It's because they don't realize they just witnessed a holy transition. God is using your movement to send a message to those who remain. A message that says, you don't have to sell your soul to succeed. You don't have to stay in cycles to be loved. You don't have to compromise to be relevant. Think of Rosa Parks. She didn't shout. She didn't fight. She simply chose to not move. Her quiet defiance became the loudest sound in the room. Her stillness broke a system. Like her, your withdrawal isn't weakness, it's warfare. And what you walk away from says just as much about your character as what you walk toward. Chosen one. Every time you decline drama, every time you refuse to respond to toxicity, every time you say no to dysfunction, you are echoing Enoch. You are creating a trail of holy footsteps that others will one day follow. Do you understand the power of that? You are becoming the evidence that it's possible to walk away and still walk in victory. You're not escaping. You're evolving. 2 Corinthians 6:17 commands, therefore, come out from among them and be separate, says the Lord. Touch no unclean thing, and I will receive you. God's instruction is clear. Separation is sometimes the signal that you've been received. You thought your exit was rebellion, but it's actually recognition. Heaven sees that your spirit has outgrown your environment. There's a shift in you that some people won't survive, and that's okay. Some circles only loved the version of you that stayed stuck, but now that you're shedding old skins, you threaten their comfort. They'll call it arrogance, but God calls it obedience. Your exit isn't a scandal, it's sacred strategy. Think of Elon Musk. When he sold all his houses and withdrew from material excess, many called him strange, but in reality, he was simplifying to focus. To many, your minimalism might look like madness, but chosen one, you're clearing the clutter so you can carry the mantle. Don't underestimate the weight of your walk. You think you're just pulling back to protect your peace, but in the unseen realm, it's spiritual warfare. You are closing doors your ancestors didn't have the strength to shut. You are cutting cords that kept generations bound. You are becoming the first in your bloodline to say, this ends with me. Oh, Psalm 101:6-7 says, my eyes will be on the faithful in the land, that they may dwell with me. No one who practices deceit will dwell in my house. God watches those who choose faithfulness over favor, and that's exactly what your exit is, a choice to honor the voice of God above the voice of the crowd. Have you ever thought, will anyone notice that I'm gone? The truth is, they will, and not in the way you expect. They'll notice because the atmosphere feels different. The energy shifted. The peace you carried went with you. You didn't just take your body, you took your boundaries. You took your discernment. You took your anointing. That's what real presence is, unmistakable. Even when you're absent. Look at Jesus. After his resurrection, there were moments when he was unrecognizable, even to his closest friends. Not because he changed his love, but because he changed his form. You're in that same process now. You're being reformed, not to impress men, but to reflect God. Romans 8:18 reminds us, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. Your exit is the birth canal of that glory. Don't mourn the contraction. Celebrate the crowning. You may feel unseen, but chosen one. You are never unnoticed. God is watching every quiet decision, every silent surrender, every behind-the-scenes yes that cost you connection, comfort, or community. And in heaven's economy, obedience is never wasted. Do you remember Harriet Tubman? She led hundreds to freedom in silence. No TikTok, no tweets, just relentless, invisible obedience. Her legacy wasn't built on noise, it was built on movement. The same is true for you. Your walk is writing history. Even if the world isn't watching, you're not just leaving places, you're leaving proof that someone dared to choose purity in a perverted time, that someone valued presence over popularity, that someone knew their worth and walked like it, even when misunderstood. Proverbs 10:7 says, "The memory of the righteous is a blessing, but the name of the wicked will rot." You are becoming the kind of person whose memory preaches long after your mouth has gone quiet. And that, chosen one, is the evidence. That's the legacy. Let me ask you this. What if your greatest message won't be heard from a platform, but from your absence in a room where you used to shrink? What if your legacy is built not on what you built, but on what you walked away from? Your exit is doing more than you think. It's forcing people to reflect, to replay conversations, to examine themselves, to realize that what they lost wasn't just a friend, it was a frequency. You carried something that convicted the room, and now that you're gone, that space is echoing with the weight of what you carried. Even your silence is speaking. Even your distance is delivering. Even your exit is an exclamation point in the spirit realm. John 12:26 affirms, "Whoever serves me must follow me. My Father will honor the one who serves me." You are being honored quietly, spiritually, eternally. And that honor may not look like applause. It may look like peace, like protection, like preservation. Chosen one. Don't let their confusion about your journey cause you to question your calling. Don't let their silence make you second-guess your steps. Not everyone will understand. Not everyone was supposed to. Remember when Enoch vanished? There was no headline, but heaven recorded it as history. Your absence will not be meaningless. It will be multiplied. Your obedience will not be wasted. It will be witnessed. Your decision to exit won't make sense to everyone, but it doesn't have to, because God isn't using your presence to make a point. He's using your absence to leave an imprint. So, chosen one, walk away boldly, leave without bitterness, exit with reverence, and never look back. Because where you're going is greater than what you're leaving, and what you're leaving is going to testify that someone dared to walk with God when it wasn't popular, when it wasn't profitable, when it wasn't understood. That's the Enoch blueprint. And you, beloved, are walking it flawlessly. Chapter 7. You're not missing, you're masterfully moved. Chosen one. The world may be whispering, "Where did they go?" But heaven is declaring, "Look what I've done." You are not missing. You are not absent. You are not forgotten. You've been masterfully moved by a God who doesn't explain his strategy to spectators. When the Creator repositions one of his vessels, he doesn't need public approval. He simply moves with precision, with purpose, with power. And right now, that's exactly what's happening to you. You see, the world equates presence with proof, but heaven works in paradox. When God elevates, he often does it in silence. When he promotes, he doesn't always post it. When he prepares, he does so behind veils, behind the scenes, behind closed doors that others no longer have access to. Isaiah 45:15 says, "Truly, you are a God who hides himself, O God of Israel, the Savior, And because you walk with him, you too are hidden, not as punishment, but as protection, not because you're irrelevant, but because you're being reintroduced under divine light, not public pressure. Think about Enoch. The world didn't get a farewell speech. He didn't leave a note. There was no final sermon. Just gone, translated, darken. But the absence wasn't absence, it was evidence. It meant heaven had reached down and relocated a man who had walked too close to stay where he was. It wasn't a disappearance. It was a divine shift. And chosen one, you're in the middle of that very same mystery. Have you noticed how certain conversations no longer land in your spirit? How you're no longer energized by the things that used to keep you up at night? How old triggers are fading and old distractions no longer pull at your heart? That's not you becoming cold. That's you being called. Colossians 3:3 tells us, "For you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God." Your spiritual hiding place is not a place of weakness. It's a sanctuary of refinement. You are no longer showing up in the places where you once needed to prove yourself, because God has pulled you out of performance and placed you into purpose. Take the example of Greta Garbo, one of the most famous actresses of her time. She walked away from Hollywood at her peak. She didn't make noise. She didn't hold a press conference. She simply vanished and left the world stunned. Her absence became legendary. Why? Because it was strategic. She didn't disappear. She withdrew with wisdom. You're doing the same. People are looking for you in old places, but you've been shifted into sacred ones. They're waiting for the old version of you to show up, but that version has been buried. The you who once said yes to every invitation, who once felt responsible for other people's emotions, who once lowered your light to keep the peace that you no longer lives here. 2 Timothy 2:21 explains, "Those who cleanse themselves will be instruments for special purposes, made holy, useful to the Master, and prepared to do any good work." God is not just moving you, He's cleansing you, preparing you, setting you apart. He's removing you from environments that no longer match your elevation, not because you're better, but because you're being readied. You didn't leave to make a statement. You were led away by something greater. Your exit wasn't rebellion, it was realignment. And now, just like Enoch, your absence is sending shockwaves through the spirit realm. The people who thought they could always reach you are realizing access to you was never guaranteed. It was grace. Have you considered this? What if your lack of visibility right now is your greatest level of visibility in heaven? What if the conversations you're not in anymore are the ones that used to drain your destiny? What if your current quiet season is actually the loudest season of your life in the spirit? Look at Moses. 40 years in the palace, 40 years in the wilderness. The first half of his life was visible, the second half hidden, refined, forgotten by many, but remembered by God. And when God was ready, He revealed Moses through fire. He revealed him through signs. He revealed him through purpose. That's what's coming for you, too. And yes, some will be confused. Some will assume you disappeared. Some will whisper, "She changed. He left us." But they don't realize you didn't run. You were rerouted. You didn't go missing. You were moved into a different spiritual time zone, a place where only those with the same hunger can follow. Psalm 27:5 says, "For in the day of trouble He will keep me safe in His dwelling. He will hide me in the shelter of His sacred tent and set me high upon a rock." You have not been misplaced. You've been strategically hidden for your protection, for your preservation, for your preparation. Have you ever seen a chess master move a piece not for immediate victory, but for future positioning? To the untrained eye, That move seems random, unnecessary, but to the master, it's the move that wins the game. That's how God is moving you. The people around you don't see the plan, but the one above you does. Take Malala Yousafzai. After being attacked for daring to want education, she could have disappeared in fear, but instead, she was moved to a new place, a new platform, a new level. Her disappearance from public life in Pakistan wasn't retreat, it was redirection. And today, her message reaches across nations. What seemed like a vanishing was actually a global unveiling. Yours will be, too. So why does it feel lonely sometimes? Why does it sting when people don't reach out anymore? Why does your growth cost you connection? Because repositioning always begins in isolation. But isolation isn't rejection, it's refinement. You are being carved into a vessel that carries glory. And glory doesn't travel in crowds, it travels in consecration. James 4:10 tells us, "Humble yourselves before the Lord, and He will lift you up." You don't have to announce your shift. Heaven is your microphone. Your humility is your spotlight. Your exit is your evidence. Think of the Wright brothers. They didn't invent the airplane in public. They tested, failed, recalibrated in silence, in obscurity. But once they lifted off, the world couldn't look away. Chosen one. Your launch is coming, but first, God is moving you into spiritual airspace where only grace can sustain you. So, let the people talk. Let the rumors swirl. Let them wonder why you're no longer responding, no longer showing up, no longer available for what no longer serves you. They'll ask, "Where did you go?" But what they're really saying is, "Why doesn't my dysfunction reach you anymore?" Because when God promotes you, He also protects you. He draws boundaries. He severs access. He closes doors, so He can open dimensions. Proverbs 18:16 declares, "A gift opens the way and ushers the giver into the presence of the great." You've been gifted, not with something shallow, but with something sacred. And now, God is positioning you before great people, great purpose, great platforms, not so you can be praised, but so you can pour. You are not missing. You are multiplying. You are not gone. You are glory-bound. You are not absent. You are ascending. This is not punishment. This is promotion. This is not a step back. This is a divine step above. And in due time, when God lifts the veil, your re-emergence won't need an explanation. It will be evident. Your presence will preach. Your posture will prophesy. Your silence will shake systems. So, chosen one, don't try to be found where God has hidden you. Don't explain your absence to those who can't understand your anointing. Don't apologize for walking away from what God has shut down. You didn't vanish. You were called higher. You didn't abandon them. You obeyed Him. And soon, the very ones who said, "She's missing," will see the move God made. The very ones who said, "He disappeared," will feel the fire you carry. Because your life was never meant to be seen everywhere. It was meant to be followed by the few. You are not lost. You are masterfully moved. Beloved, chosen one, let this truth settle into your spirit, what others call a disappearance. Heaven calls divine strategy. You haven't gone missing. You've been moved, and not just moved casually, but masterfully repositioned by the hand of the Most High. You didn't fade out. You didn't retreat in defeat. You were called out, pulled higher, and hidden with holy purpose. You didn't disappear because you lacked direction. You disappeared because you found it. The deeper your walk with God became, the less this world could recognize you. And that's the point. You were never supposed to be understood by everyone. You were chosen to be used by God, not managed by people. You are becoming the answer to a silent prayer. Someone is still afraid to speak. You are becoming the signpost that points back to holiness in a world obsessed with compromise. You are becoming the living evidence that yes, it is still possible to walk in purity when popularity is easier, to obey God even when opportunity knocks louder, to choose purpose over performance when the crowd is watching. You didn't just survive your pruning season, you graduated. You moved out of the realm of needing to be seen and into the realm of being sent. And the difference is everything. That's why you're not comfortable in the places you used to feel at home. That's why old conversations feel foreign. Why shallow friendships no longer feed you. Why your tolerance for games, gossip, and manipulation is gone. Because you are no longer managed by the expectations of people. You are now operating under divine management. Your life is not on autopilot. It is being guided by holy coordinates. And every step you take, even the silent ones, are watched, recorded, and orchestrated by heaven itself. So when they search for you and find only empty space, don't mourn it. When they look back at the places you used to frequent and say, "What happened to her? Why did he vanish?" You don't owe an answer, because your life isn't meant to be explained. It's meant to be observed. And what they call ghosting, God calls graduation. What they call absence, God calls assignment. You're not less present. You're just more aligned. They will miss your prayers, your discernment, your insight, your stillness. They'll remember your boundaries not as walls, but as sacred markers of someone who refused to be drained by dysfunction. The ones who once rolled their eyes at your convictions, who laughed at your silence, who misread your distance, they'll realize you weren't avoiding them. You were becoming you, the real you, the surrendered you, the anointed you. And your absence will speak louder than any argument ever could, because your life left a fragrance, a signature, a spiritual fingerprint. Even when you're no longer physically present, your example will remain, and it will convict, correct, and comfort. Don't underestimate how powerful your walk has become. You are now walking in such intimacy with God that He's decided to preserve you, not parade you. This is not about being seen. This is about being sealed. You are in the care of the Commander. You are tucked beneath His wing. You've become too valuable to heaven to be overexposed to the world. That's why He's pulled you out. That's why He's rearranged the furniture of your life. That's why your disappearance is not random. It's a revelation. And beloved, if this word has confirmed what you've been sensing in your spirit, if it's helped you see your journey more clearly, given your soul peace in a confusing season, I want to pause and simply say, thank you. Thank you for walking with me through this series. Thank you for pressing in, for receiving, for staying the course when silence felt heavy and clarity seemed distant. Thank you for your heart, your trust, your presence here. This message, and all the messages like it, exist because people like you are willing to journey deeper. And if at any point you felt led to support this work, to sow back into this, well, you can do so through the super thanks option right below. Whether it's $1 or something greater, every seed helps this message reach the next chosen one who is moments away from giving up, who's doubting their divine isolation, who's questioning the point of their pain. But hear me clearly, whether you give or not, you are loved. You are deeply appreciated. Your value here is not measured in gifts. It is measured in alignment, just by showing up, just by opening your heart, just by walking with me on this journey. You have already given more than you know, and I bless you for it, truly. Now, let me speak this final word over your life. May the silence you endured become a sanctuary of strategy. May the doors that closed be replaced with ones no man can shut. May your name only be found in the mouths of those God assigns to honor it. May your presence continue to shift atmospheres, even when you say nothing. May your life interrupt cycles, heal wounds, and inspire generations. May you never again feel the need to explain a transition that heaven initiated. You are not missing. You are masterfully moved. You are not absent. You are assigned. You are not fading. You are flourishing in hidden places. This is the era of your divine unveiling, but not by force, by fruit, by fire, by favor. The Enoch frequency is alive in you now. You're walking closer with God than ever before. And as that closeness grows, don't be surprised when fewer people recognize the version of you that returns. You've been refined. You've been rerouted. You've been resurrected into purpose. And when the time comes for your reappearance, you won't need to announce it. Heaven will do that for you. Until then, stay hidden, stay holy, stay His. God bless you. Beloved, you are chosen, you are covered, and you are coming forth stronger than ever.